It's Parm King, and it's been a while since I've done one of these Dungeon Master player tips. I've been really focused on Curse of Strahd, working on those Curse of Strahd modules and my own campaign. However, something did happen to me in a game that I'm playing, Stars Without Number game, on Monday night, and I just had a conversation a few hours ago with the Game Master about it, and I thought I should share it with you. It's something that we don't often talk about when we play role-playing games, but I thought it was something, well, it's something we should probably do more of or think about it a little bit more. So let me give you the setup and tell you what I did. So in the game, I am a non-violent smuggler, right? I smuggle goods in this space game. I don't ask questions. I'm not really a Han Solo. I'm more like an older gentleman that's involved in trafficking nefarious stuff throughout the galaxy. And I keep a very low profile. Don't go around killing anybody. That's not who my character is. However, the following things transpire. Early on, I'm mistaken for a terrorist. My face, which I'm highly protective of, is plastered all over the universe and galactic news feeds that I'm monitored for terrorist activity. In the meantime, I have a ship which I have stolen, but doesn't have a interstellar drive to get me to the next sector, and I have goods, over 1 million credits worth of goods that I have to get to the next sector, but my ship won't make it, and I'm wanted by the government. So I end up getting to a space station with the crew, the other players, and we run into this old guy, 70, 80 years old, and he's a salvager, and he's got wind of a derelict spacecraft that might have some stuff on it, and he's willing to allow us to go with him, and if we help him, because he's on his own, salvage the stuff on the on the derelict spacecraft, we can split the money, and I can use that money to upgrade the engines to an interstellar drive so I can get to the next sector, sell the 1 million credits worth of goods, change my face, and hopefully get away from this intergalactic government that's hunting me down. Well, we agree to do it. It's not what I want to do, but we agree to do it because I need the money in order to buy the engine so I can take the ship to the next sector. When we get to the derelict spacecraft, we tether to it. We send a drone on board, and the players eventually, a couple of the players go on board in spacesuits, and we realize it is a secret government science vessel. There's a bunch of dead crew aboard, and we discover a creature. If you've watched The Expanse, it's been kind of taken over by like the proto-molecule and destroys our drone. The players barely escape off the ship and get back onto the salvage ship with the old guy. And my player character is now kind of stressing out, right? I'm not wanted by the intergalactic government for terrorist activities that I didn't do. I've got a very, very hot cargo on my ship, which I later found out were weapons, over 1 million credit that I got to get to the next sector. Otherwise, I'm going to get those people pissed off at me. And I don't have the ship with the right engine. I'm short on funds. And I'm on this salvage ship that does have the right engines. The ship that I'm on has the right engines. And this guy's not really telling us the whole truth. We end up finding out this is a derelict spacecraft with some government scientific, probably weapons-grade experiment. If there's any place in the entire galaxy that the galactic government is focusing their resources to find, it's this ship with the proto-molecule and the monster on it, right? So I shouldn't be there. So what do you do as a player character at this moment, right? Your players are taking off their spacesuits. They've just managed to get over the ship. You're sweating bullets. The old man says, what, you guys a bunch of pussies? Just go over there and get the good stuff. Lock that creature away in one of the things. And this isn't our primary job. Remember, this is a secondary job for me to get the money to get my shit to the next sector. Now, if I was a real actor, and if you're watching this video, you're probably not a real actor or a role player game lover like myself, real actors can get into method acting. You know, Gary Oldman dresses up and he becomes Winston Churchill. As a moviegoer, we watch and we don't see Gary Oldman the actor, we see Winston Churchill on the screen. And really good actors are able to do that. pull ourselves into the movie and we believe them as their character. They are doing exactly what their character would be doing, not what the actor would be doing. But it's very hard for me as a role-playing game person to go, what do I want to do? What would I do in this? Not what my character would do. So as we're sitting around there and this scene is unfolding, I say to the game master and to the players, I'm going to self-roll. There's things have escalated. I'm going to self-roll. If I fail this self-check, I'm going to do something very drastic at this moment. Okay? And they all said, yeah, sure. We get it. And I listed out the things like I did for you. All these things have mounted up. The straw is broken the camel's back. But I don't want to, as an individual player, arbitrarily make the decision that my player would. So I decided to roll. I did a skill check to set my own DC, did a skill check, and I failed the roll. Well, what I did was after I failed the roll, I looked at my player characters, the other two guys that just came aboard. The guy and the gal just came aboard the spaceship in their spacesuits, sweating bullets, barely escaping the monster. And I stare over at the old man, and I pull up my gun, and I blast his brains out and splatter them across the wall. The game master, the players are in total shock. I say, space the body, let's cut the tethers, and get the hell out of here. Now, out of character, I had explained to them at that moment, these are all these things are building up, and I made that roll because I didn't want to arbitrarily make that decision. I wanted the roll of the dice to determine if I would take such a drastic action. And if I didn't, I would continue role play and continue to figure out and negotiate with them and maybe get the stuff off the ship or whatever. I hadn't reached that breaking point yet. So I made a self-roll. I asked the GM if I can make that self-roll. I did that in another game not too long ago. I was a barbarian with maybe a level 8 intelligence with a negative modifier in D&D. And I decided in some instances to self-roll a intelligence check, whether I would charge in like Leroy's Jenkins and start attacking because I'm just not that intelligent, or if I would understand how the game would work or understand plans. Playing them dumb, sometimes I would self-roll to determine if I would make that stupid action or not. When we're self-rolling, we need to determine what that DC is based on, if we're going to use a DC, based on the stress level the player might be experiencing or the level of intelligence. In this particular instance, this was like the straw that broke the camel's back. I would have probably set this DC to DC 10 or 12. If it's something that your player may do, your player character may do, you might want to set that DC higher. I was looking around after Monday, and I did a little scouring on the internet, and I didn't really find anything out there about self-rolling to make those discrete decisions that you would do as a player character. There's so many times when I'm playing as a character in a game that I want to play the character how I want to play the character, not how necessarily the character in that story would actually do it. And if I look back in retrospect, without self-rolling, I wouldn't have shot the old guy who, by the way, the old smuggler, my character Slan and the old smuggler became friends. The old salvage guy became friends. We were sharing whiskey. We had gotten along. But it got to a point where, drastic situations, high tension, risky situations sometimes bring a level of volatility, a level of uncertainty for the events unfold. I can tell you what happened is after I rolled that and I shot them, the game master did something, and this is a second thing that we should think about is rolling initiative, not for a combat encounter, but rolling initiative to create discrete events and slowing down time, giving each player a moment to make an action or decision or movement on their own. And that's what happened. One player went out to the airlock to break the tethers. Another player, I was getting ready to scan the area to see if there were any inbound ships and how do we get out of here. Another player is checking out the systems on this new ship that it's really not our ship, that we've just kind of commandeered, carrying got to carry the body of the dead old salvager out the airlock. And as that's progressing, and as we're trying to untether the ship, the proto-molecule monster starts climbing across the tether to our ship, and now we've got to, one of the players is trying to create some slack in the line, in the tether between the two ships, so they can unhook the tether. It's too taut, and they kind of fuck it up, and the ships get closer together. As it does it, the protocol monster jumps onto the side of the ship. I mean, things are just escalating very, very quickly without combat actually even happening at this point. And players are making these discrete decisions. I can tell you, it was exhilarating. It was fun. The other players that I'm playing with are very good social role players. A lot of drama. In the five or six game sessions we've had, we've only had 2 combat encounters, and neither of them have lasted a full round. It's been mostly rolling checks and just heavy role playing. Not that it's a game, not that it's a rules-like game. We use a lot of rules and skill checks and stuff like that, but it's more of it's certainly a heavy role playing. We definitely heavily role play our characters. But I'm thinking this self-rolling thing is something that I want to institute more of in my own games, as both a DM or GM with my players, telling them to do that or giving them some ideas on how to do that. But as a player myself, doing that more often when you're facing those moments where there's a decision that you would make based on either your character's abilities or the situation that's arising, where you're going to go, I'm going to roll the dice, and if I fail this roll, I'm going to make a drastic action. For the player, and I want to emphasize, this is you, the player, making that decision, asking the game master, it's okay, I would like to roll because I want to determine how I'm going to react, how I will respond, what action I will take, rather than arbitrarily role-playing it out. Anyway, it was just some food for thought. It was something I had a couple of conversations about this week, and this one self-roll that ended up me killing the salvager, commandeering the ship, escalated into some awesome role-playing experience. I mean, all of us had an amazing time. Things got really stressful there for a bit. One player almost died, and that's what I like. I like that uncertainty, that volatility, that stress, and every player figuring out what their character is going to do under the stress, that we're working together to survive, to get ourselves out of this desperate situation. Anyway, I would love to hear what your thoughts are on self-rolling and decision-making and role-playing those decisions as your player characters. If you have ideas or similar ideas or whatever you think, maybe you think this is a dumb idea, leave your comments down below. I really like to hear it. Also, if you liked this video, click like, hit subscribe. It really helps with the YouTube algorithm. Until next time, may all your rolls be critically successful.